All right, welcome back. What stage are we on? Stage 15, Tour de France. Right at the end, we're inside the last 3-4 kilometers. The magical 3 kilometer point when, if there's a wreck, everybody gets the same time as the group they were with. So if you're with the race leader, he would gain whatever advantage, keep whatever. I don't know how that one would work. But certainly with the main peloton, you would get that time if you were 3 minutes behind the peloton, but and you went down, you would finish 3 minutes behind. So whatever it is, so really important for the GC riders, and it's actually why they came up with the rule. Was if it was same time, then the GC riders would have to be right up, mixing it up with the sprinters as they come into the end of the stage, just so that their time gaps open up. And it just made it that much more dangerous. Now, when I first started watching the tour, it was the 1 kilometer to go. But again, while the trains were going and the trains for the sprinters, they were being there with the trains for the GC guys, and it just had too many people trying to be on the front of the peloton all at the same time. So they changed the rules and backed it up to 3 kilometers out. And it certainly makes the final sprint less dangerous, but they're still dangerous. I mean, you got everybody going flat out, doing everything they can to get a stage win, which may be the highlight of most anyone's career, like the pinnacle. And this has been a particularly jumpy, crashy, things have gone wrong. In fact, Jonas Vingegaard's one teammate didn't start the day. Actually, he was their original GC man. Didn't start the day because either he just finally, they didn't say he tested positive COVID. Two others, actually two people who've won a stage in this year's tour, did end up testing positive and had to leave the store. So both Simon Clark, who won, and Magnus Kort, sort of the hero of Denmark, who won the polka dot jersey on the first road stage and held it much longer than anybody thought, including himself, thought he could. But he and Simon Clark both tested positive and had to leave the tour. There's very little tolerance for people who, and I'm not arguing with the point, if you test positive. But what has been interesting is a couple riders have tested positive but are asymptomatic, and they let them stay in. In fact, I believe it was Niels Pollitt, who I've already painted earlier in this stage, who had tested positive but had no symptoms. And he clearly is feeling well if he was able to be in a breakaway earlier today. He was allowed to stay in the race despite a positive test. So I'm not quite sure what the criteria is, but better minds than mine are making those decisions. But this is Benjamin Thomas, and he's sort of being opportune. Again, I didn't write the title because I hadn't thought of one. So I'm going to stop and do that here in a second. But he had gone, his teammate, Simon Geschke, is leading in the now, he took over the lead from Magnus, coincidentally. Wasn't that a nice little segue? took over the lead in the King of Mountains from Magnus Cort and has held it ever since. He wasn't able to get any points on the last climb, so his teammate jumps out of the group, attacks, and picks up the points sort of as a defensive move, and then realize, well, hey, I'm off the front. And actually he was joined by another rider who has since dropped off, couldn't quite handle the pace, and also probably was like, this is not worth the amount of energy we're spending to do this. Yeah, we'll call that last one away. Sort of a callback to a previous title from yesterday. And that scrawl is my signature. Totally illegible. It'd probably be wiser to have a signature that people could read, so when they see the paintings they would go, oh, I know who that is, or figure out who I am. Not easy to do with that signature. So again, working through the palette, although I am jumping around a little bit. You know, rules are made to be broken, right? Although I've kind of already hit the warm colors in here. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of that blue, dilute it, because I'm going to use it because this is a white jersey, to help give just a little bit more dimension, a little shadow on that white, and also on these hay bales. In fact, speaking of Primrose Roglic, somebody had hit a hay bale several stages back and knocked it into the road. Apparently the rider didn't go down, but the hay bale was in the road, and then he hit it. And that's when he was still very much a contender. The team had two contenders, but that put pale to his aspirations. He lost time that day, and then has kind of not been a factor in the GC, so then he switched over to being a support rider for Vingegaard. Now the team is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see what happens after tomorrow's rest day, because the team has lost not only Primlaz, who pulled out from the repercussions of the crash, and who knows what else. You know, the teams don't tell us everything. My favorite is listening to, they do these race interviews before the start of the stage, and it's like, you know, just don't believe anything they say. It's like, why are you asking questions? They're just gonna lie to you anyway. But, you know, inquiring minds want to know. And that's a reference probably a lot of people don't get. So now I'm just going to work into this background, set it, and of course, again, I've talked about, you know, how you get, you know, since you can't add white, and this guy's wearing a white jersey, I have to leave the white paper, and so you sort of have to anticipate that. Now, one technique that a lot of landscape painters will do, in particular, although you can do this for any style of painting or subject matter, is like if you're going to paint water rapids or something, you can put down a little bit of rubber cement and then do your painting and not think about white space, and then when you pull up the rubber cement, that leaves the white paper behind. So that's another way to get white in. And if you're working on a much larger scale and a much more, don't want to use the word finish, but a much more, well, a large scale piece, we'll leave it at that. That's going to become a necessary thing oftentimes. I'm doing much more almost watercolor sketches. I mean, they're obviously, this thing will come to fruition in the time it takes me to film this. So they're much quicker, and so I'm not going to play around with, you know, that kind of forethought and pre-planning. Plus, again, I'm trying to do these live in the moment as the race is playing out. Now today I'm behind real time, but still it's conceived as created as though it's live. So I do need to do the sky, but because I just put that green in, I don't want to pick up the wet green with my wet blue. So I'm going to move on to another part of the painting. Go down here and get the dark black cycling shorts. And it's interesting as he's kind of showing the bottom of his foot there. And now I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that to create the shadow, because the shadow can help inform the image, sort of give a little bit more about what's going on. Plus it's going to help me show that white shoe just a little bit better. Just a little bit more water because I want to have this just a little bit less obvious. So he's just swinging around a roundabout, which are designed to slow traffic down, make people a little more cautious in their cars, slow them down, have them not whip through town, but they also are a hazard to the cyclists, because now they are literally, they are moving at the speeds of a speeding car. So actually, as he's going through this corner, he's at 25 miles an hour according to the screen on the TV. So now this is dry enough to come back in and lay in that sky, and that actually will be the finish of this piece, which will give me, as I'm doing that, time to tell you that you can see all of my cycling art, particularly of the Tour, but of many other race events this year, at theartofcycling.blogspot.com. But in addition, you can see all of my artwork, because as you can see from other videos in this channel, that I work in other media as well. You can see those at gregleach.com. I'm going to come back and use a little bit of this blue to make this shirt pop a little bit more. And of course, if you like what you're watching, I'd love it if you give me a follow, give me a thumbs up. If you have an opinion on what I'm doing, I'd love to hear it. I am a little behind on getting these posted, so bear with me. I will eventually catch up. So thank you so much for taking the time to look, time to watch. Whoops, forgot the guardrail. And as always, I do appreciate your interest in what I'm doing. Thank you so much.